first we'll start just kind of by recapping the Arkansas game. Start with our players of the week. Our offensive scout team player of the week was Chase Burton. Our defensive scout team player of the week was Lucas Pernis. And our special team scout player of the week was Tiger Ryden. It's been good to see him get back healthy and get out there. He's kind of back on the travel roster, starting to get himself involved in some special teams, and so it's good to see him healthy and doing his thing. In terms of players of the week, our offensive lineman of the week was Chase Basantis. Our offensive player of the week was Marcel Reed, and our special teams player of the week was Bravion Rogers. I thought Chase had another phenomenal game. I think he continues to do a really, really good job of creating movement. Obviously, our offensive line, again, with no sacks, continued to play really, really well. I said this after the game, and I kind of played this way out. Marcel played his most complete game. I thought he did what we had asked him to do consistently throughout, made plays with his arms, he made plays with his legs, distributed the ball really well, and so thought he did a really good job. And then Bravion Rogers continues to be a major factor for us on special teams, does a great job as a gunner, getting down against what was a very dangerous punt returner, and made one big tackle and also kind of drew a penalty that kind of backed him up on the second to last drive of the game. And so really excited with how he's playing. Defensively, there was nobody, which I think just kind of speaks to the game. Offensively, I thought we played really, really well, answered the call every time we needed to. Thought it was really great the way we went out in the second half and just continued to make plays to find a way to win the game. Defensively, it was a very poor game. Didn't play well, didn't play up to our standard, didn't do the things that you need to do to be successful at all. And so obviously we've got to go back to work and get that fixed. And so we now turn our attention to LSU. Obviously a big opportunity, a big stage, a chance to go down to Baton Rouge for what will be a very big game in a hostile environment. And so another opportunity for this program to take a step forward. And so we're looking forward to the challenge and excited. And I'll just say this, for all of the Aggies traveling down there, Coach Morrison and their team is playing Friday night at 7 o'clock down in Baton Rouge. And so if you can make it a double dip while you're down there, we'd love to get out there and support the girls as well. And so from there, we'll kind of open it up to questions.
Coach to the right, third row, David.
Coach Elko, I'm not asking for coaching secrets, but can you talk to me about the collaborative effort of what you all do at halftime? Because it seems like every game you guys diagnose a problem and then come out in the second half. And I know you weren't happy with the defense, but you did limit their running in the second half. Can you kind of talk about that process?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of a lot of things. I think, one, it's trying to identify how people are attacking us, and I think having a defensive system that's flexible enough to adapt on the run, which I think we've always kind of been able to do. I think it's the ability to get some information to the players at a more calm way. The sideline is so frenetic during the game. It's you adjust and you talk, but sometimes it doesn't always register when they're calling the hogs or they're going crazy, and it's just not the easiest environment for a 19-year-old to focus on what you're saying, and then you can get them in the locker room and you can kind of settle them down. And so I think some of that plays a role in it. And then obviously you try to predict where the game's going in moving forward, and you're able to just kind of, I think we've always had a good feel for kind of what's coming and how to adjust to it. It certainly didn't feel like we did a great job of that on Saturday, but I do think over our time here, it's something we've been very good at.
Coach to the left, fourth row, Rob.
Howdy, Coach.
Howdy.
So Bethel-Roman has a breakout game. E.J. Smith, huge game. Can you just talk about how cool it is that you've got guys that maybe don't get all the headlines that are stepping up and making big plays to help this team win?
Yeah, I think on a lot of levels. I think, and I try to point it out to those guys. I pointed it out in the locker room after the game. I pointed it out in the team meeting yesterday, or today rather. When you talk about what a championship program looks like, that's what it looks like. It looks like a bunch of guys bought into being ready when it's time. And like I said, on offense, this happens all the time. Everybody wants the ball every play. I've had this conversation with our skill kids all year. I said, you don't have to tell me you didn't get the ball enough. I'm all set. Whether you're the guy who got it the most or you're the guy who didn't get it at all, like I'm all set that everybody needs it more. It's coaches need more of this, players need more. That's just how the world works. And so I'm good. But, there's going to come a time where when the game's on the line, the ball's going to come to you. And your challenge is you have to be ready to make that play. And I don't know when it's going to be. I don't know how it's going to happen. But you have to be ready to make that play because inevitably that play might be the difference between us winning and losing and might be the difference between us going to the playoffs or not. That's what football is. And so when you think about it, E.J. Smith's not having all of the limelight he dreamed of having going into his senior year. I'm sure he wishes he was the feature back carrying the ball 20 times a game. But here it is, 4th and 1 at Arkansas in our own territory, and he's got to convert. And that's a championship play. And that play and that player will have as much to do with our success as anyone, right? And it's the same thing with Ashton. We need a play on a 2nd and 10, and we throw a 50-50 jump ball, and he goes up and comes down with it that ultimately leads to the touchdown that stretches it out, that ultimately is the game-winning score. And so those things matter. And in this world where we try to identify every player to be selfish and every player to only be out for himself, I think within this program right now, we have a lot of players that are breaking that are showing you that they really are here for Texas A&M. They are here for this team, and they're going to compete, and they're going to be ready when their number's called.
Back to the right, Olin. Behind. Yeah.
Okay. Royal Rumble for the next question.
Mike, if I could ask two.
That's a boss move right there, Travis, that he pulled on you.
This year y'all have ended some dubious streaks for Texas A&M, and I wonder if, how much satisfaction do you allow yourself to have in that, or do you just approach those things as just another day at the office for a coach?
Probably as another day at the office as a coach. We came here with a vision of what this program should be. We knew in order for that to become a reality, we were going to have to do that. The vision of this program has not been this program's reality. We've talked about that since I got here, that, we can't just keep saying we want to be something. We're actually at some point going to have to go out and do it. That was going to require us winning on the road, winning SEC games on the road, beating top 10 teams. Like, all of that was part of why we haven't been able to chase this elusive title that we've been searching for so long, or do any of those things. And so, I don't know that I find tremendous joy. It's good to see the program continuing to move in the right direction. I think that's how I take all of that.
I hope this isn't really too stupid of a question, but I wonder if there's
Always a good preface.
Yeah, I wonder if there's any because y'all won. Is there any silver lining in that with the defensive performance that you can have this this visual aid, for lack of better way to put it, to show your guys what they have to do to be effective defensively the rest of the year?
I hope so. Right, is probably the right answer to that. Obviously, the silver lining is much bigger than a silver lining. We won the football game. We won't win very many games playing football and defense like that. I know that. I think our players know that. I was talking to one of them today, though. Like, I feel like this generation sometimes has to get burned on the stove over and over and over again before they stop putting their hand on it. That was kind of how I talked to them today. Can we please make the corrections and make the adjustments before we don't get the silver lining to adjust with? And so hopefully that creates some urgency. Obviously this game and this opponent should create a lot of urgency, but it is certainly concerning. It's concerning that we would do that on a Saturday with everything at stake the way it was. And so hopefully it's a lesson learned.
To the left, Alex.
A&M's had a tough time beating LSU on the road since they've been in the SEC. I'm just curious.
By tough time, you mean we've never done it?
To that point,
yeah.
From your experience, what makes it so challenging to play at Tiger Stadium?
I think for a large period of time we weren't, we didn't go down there physically and stand up to the challenge. I think when you saw some of the early games, I think that was kind of always the okay, this is what the SEC looks like. I think as our program grew, we started to get closer and closer. Obviously, my first experience was going down there and playing the 2019 team. That wasn't a lot of fun, but that was historically one of the best teams in college football. I think when we went down there in 21, it was obviously a much more competitive game from a physical standpoint, and I think that's the gap that we've tried to close as a program. And so, obviously, the series has been very balanced since I've been here in 2018. Someone's going to crack through at some point on the road, and, Saturday's an opportunity for us to be the team that does it.
And then there's multiple national reports out that you're a possible candidate for the Penn State job. I'm just curious, your thoughts on that, how you handle your name being linked to that kind of job, and if that's something you even discuss with your players.
I don't discuss it with my players. I think it's absolutely hilarious how you guys cover coaches. I think 3 weeks ago I was getting fired. Now I'm getting hired. Now you don't want me to stay, but I'm leaving. It's absolutely hilarious. It is a waste of brain space to spend any time talking or thinking about any of that stupidity.
Now we'll go to Travis in the front.
Thinking back on Ashton Bethel-Roman's recruitment, it seems like he could have gotten pulled in a lot of places. What do you remember about that and being able to ink him here?
Yeah, I remember watching his tape when we got hired before he signed with Arkansas, thinking he was a really talented player, and I wish we had recruited him. And so we did everything we could in the final hours to try to get him to flip to us. And, just couldn't get him over the hump. The relationship was too short. We didn't know him. I was at Duke. Coach Wiggins wasn't even here yet, so we didn't have a wide receiver coach. And Coach Klein didn't really know him. And so it was such a challenge to try to get it done in such a short period of time. And so he wound up signing with Arkansas. And, and then I guess for whatever reason, while he was there, it didn't work the way he had hoped it would. And so he wound up here.
Coach to the left again, fifth row, Aiden.
So as a coach, how does the stadium environment at LSU play into the preparation for this Saturday? You mentioned the impact of the crowd noise on your player communication last week.
Yeah, if we're starting to prepare for that now, we lost. And so the preparation for this started in spring ball. I think it's been an ongoing process for us. It's certainly not news to us that we're going to have to go play in some hostile environments on the road. And so, you do a lot from a preparation standpoint through spring. You do a lot of preparation in fall camp. We certainly have been preparing weekly for this. And so what you hope is that when you get into that environment, everybody's able to focus at the level they need to. Now, until you're in the environment, you can't recreate it. There's zero chance that on a Tuesday morning I can recreate what it's going to be like Saturday night in Tiger Stadium. And so you do the best you can to create as many obstacles and hurdles as you possibly can for your kids to overcome. That you just got to have confidence in them and who they are, that they're going to be able to go out there and do it the right way Saturday night.
We'll stay to the left, Aaron.
Howdy, Coach.
Howdy.
So last year against LSU was obviously kind of Marcel Reed becoming, I guess, the man for A&M. And so just 1 year later, kind of coming full circle, what would you say is like the biggest difference you've seen in him, especially after a great performance against Arkansas?
I'm running out of ways to answer the question on Marcel Reed's growth. I just think, when he went out there last year against Arkansas, he made so many plays with his legs, but I don't know that he was a complete quarterback yet. He had some success. He had done some good things, but there just was a lot of inconsistency in his ability to go through the passing game progressions. I think now what you see is a kid so much more confident, so much more comfortable, still the same athlete, still capable of making plays with his feet, but also now able to sit in a pocket and deliver the football at a much, much higher level. And so I think that's probably the growth that he's made the most.
Coach all the way in the back, Donna.
Coach, this past week aside, obviously the defense has been playing pretty well. Albert Regis is now 4 tackles away from 100 in his career. So just what can you say about his, performance and time and what he means to this line?
Yeah, I think that's really cool for him. I wasn't aware of that, so thanks for sharing that. I've said this before, I do believe he's one of the most unsung members of this defense, and what he does for us, being stout in the middle, being physical at the point. He's a challenge to block, double team, struggle to move him. He does a really, really good job of anchoring our run defense, and obviously has had a lot more success this year rushing the passer and getting pressures too. And so when you're a defensive tackle, stats don't come easy, and so I think it's just a tremendous credit to how hard he plays and how much he throws his body around for this program, that if he can get to 100 tackles, that's a really cool accomplishment.
We'll stay to the left, third row.
Last year we saw Garrett Nussmeier kind of have a lot of highs and a lot of lows here. What have you seen from him this year on tape when you've been evaluating this week?
Yeah, an extremely talented quarterback with a lot of weapons, the ability to distribute the football. He'll be a high draft pick. He'll be a successful NFL quarterback for a really long time, and just have a ton of respect for who he is as a player and the way he goes out there and competes.
Right next to him, Matthew.
Coach, you're playing former A&M commit Harold Perkins this week. How do you look to scheme your offense around him?
I mean, I don't know how to answer that question. Former A&M commit, that was like 6 years ago. Harold Perkins is a really good player. They got a really good defense. Obviously, I know Harold. We recruited him, spent a lot of time talking about him. I would classify him at this point in his career as just an LSU linebacker. He's had a really good career. It's great to see that he's back healthy. Obviously, that was a bad injury that he suffered last year, and just happy for him that he's back and playing really well.
And then this team hasn't been 7-0 in over 30 years. How has the idea of finishing helped get this team back to this point?
I think you've seen us make some plays in the fourth quarter that have certainly made the difference. If you look at our games, I think there's been, 3 games now that have come down to one score in the fourth quarter, and for us to be 3-0 in those games, I think the feelings in and around this room and the questions about my job security would be a lot different if I was on this podium at 4-3 than me standing here at 7-0. And so the way we finish games, the way we've made plays down the stretch, that matters. But again, we talk consistently about how success is rented, and we've got to make sure that we continue to do it and continue to do it at a really high level.
Back over to the right, Carter.
You guys have used some pretty funky formations and fourth and short situations, and you've talked about doing a lot of research in the offseason. Without asking you to reveal any secrets, just how much went into that research and that preparation for what you guys have kind of shown so far in those situations?
Yeah, a lot. I think, we have a tremendous pride in what we do. And I've said this before, we're not the kind of staff that just points fingers when things don't go well. And we certainly had our 4th and 1 failures down the stretch last year. And, you can point to a variety of reasons as to why each of those plays failed. But at the end of the day, the first thing you do is you take a look internally at what are we doing? Are we doing the right things? What's out there across the country between college football and the NFL that's creatively giving you the best opportunity to be successful? And you try to make the proper tactical adjustments to give your kids the best opportunity to go out and be successful. And I just think that's leadership and that's coaching, right? It doesn't do anybody any good for us to just sit here and point the finger at, if they would have just done, it's just not how we function. And so, we obviously had a lot of different things we challenged our staff with this offseason, but that was certainly one of them, was to go out and find a way to get better in those situations. And I think for the most part, we've been able to do that and do it well. And obviously being 3 for 3 on Saturday was a huge piece of why we won that football game.
The last time A&M went to LSU, you were hired the next day here at A&M. Just curious, looking back, did you expect the turnaround or maybe the start that you've had to be this quick? And just how validated do you feel about the decision to come here and coach here?
Yeah, probably 2 separate questions. I think, obviously, and I've said this on multiple occasions, in the modern era of college football, and you're seeing that play out across the country right now with some of my colleagues and what's happening, there's not a lot of time. Like, nobody has time. You don't have time to build. You don't have time to look at the future. You've got to hit the ground running, and you've got to do everything you can to have eyes in 2 different directions, right? Building the foundation of a program that will last for a really long time while doing things that give you an opportunity to win right away. And that's what we tried to do. And obviously it's very validating to have the success that we've had doing it. In terms of validation, in terms of taking the job and coming here, I think that shows up in a lot of different ways, a lot more than just winning football games. I think the support of the 12th man, the support of this athletic department, the support of the university, what we're able to be building from a marketing standpoint, a recruiting standpoint, I think all of those things are validation that this place truly does have the potential that I thought it did when I took the job. And so each day that those things continue to elevate and grow, I think that's the validation to that part of it.
We'll stay to the right. Jesus.
Coach, Wednesday's International Stuttering Awareness Day, and I wanted to ask if you had some insight into Casey Concepcion as a communicator, as a leader, or any examples of that you might be able to share of him speaking up and what you've seen from him and dealing with stuttering.
Yeah, I think it's a credit to him how he handles himself. Obviously, being a prime focus player on a high level program that's competing for high level things, he's forced to be in the media a lot. And him and I actually had a conversation over the summer about just how comfortable are you doing this? Is this something you're comfortable with? Before we got into, okay, hey, you guys are going to be asking today, well, what is his comfort level? And he was like, Coach, I'm good. I'm going to go up and I'm going to do it. And I thought that was really mature of him. And then just in terms of his leadership with the players, I think he really kind of jumped right into this thing. I think he was a kid who has been on a mission to kind of, recenter his career. He had a great freshman year, didn't have the sophomore year that he wanted to. And, since all the way back when he showed up in January, I think he's been on a mission to, build some chemistry with himself and the quarterback, build some chemistry with him and the other receivers, and do the things he needed to do to show that he was here for Texas A&M, not just here for Casey Concepcion. And I think that's been really, really cool to see, and I think the kids gravitate to him for that reason.
To the left. Mark.
Mike, I think that was Ruben's first career start. Can you talk a little bit about his evolution here the last few weeks? I don't know.
I think there's some places where you get thrown out of
Man, I was finally going to get through a question without stuttering or messing up, and then
Robert goes and does that to you.
But anyway, I was hoping you could talk a little bit about the Ruben's development that you've seen, especially maturing over the last month or so.
Yeah, I was obviously very well aware of who Rueben was. Rueben was a big-time high school player when I was still here as a defensive coordinator. And so, as much success as he had at the high school level, there's still a transition when you get to the college, right? And learning how to carry the ball at the college level, run the ball at the college level is different. And, I wasn't here with him as a freshman year, so I don't really know how that went for him. But from the time we got here, you saw development, you saw evolution, and then unfortunately he goes through the foot injury. And so he has not played a lot of football in this system. And so I think he's one of the kids who gets a lot better every week that he goes out there because those reps are so valuable for him. And I think he's getting more and more comfortable with what we're asking him to do in the run game with the run lines and the run angles. And saw him have a big pickup in pass protection on Saturday, which was really big. And so I just think he continues to develop every week and to be more of a complete back. And obviously we need him to continue to do that.
We'll stay right there. Tony.
Hey, Mike, obviously you talked about a guy like E.J. Smith, obviously wanted more opportunities than he was getting, but making the most of them when he did get them. So I wanted to ask you, when it comes to putting him in a spot like that on 4th and 1, how much is that based on, next man up, or is that situational where he's a power back, or just what is your thought process of keeping that rotation of backs there?
Yeah, I think what happens is you get into kind of a rank order of who's carrying the ball in what situations, and obviously Le'Veon goes down in the Florida game. And so we get to the end, and he gets some carries, and it's really his first extended action of the year against high-level competition. And he goes out there and he runs the ball really well to close out the game at Florida. And so then you evaluate that and you say, okay, well, let's give him a chance in some of these short yardage situations. And so if his number gets called or we run the play that we feel good about him being back there, we'll go put him back there. And so I think that's where it goes to. And so, obviously he did a nice job at the end of the Florida game, which led to more carries last week against Arkansas. Arkansas. He did a really good job with that, which I'm sure will lead to more action this week. And I just think that's kind of how the progression goes.
And then we'll stay there. Cease.
Let's see if I can screw this
You
up.
get a question after
Yeah,
all that?
let's see if I can screw this up.
I'll tell you what, we are soft around here.
I know, too old to run laps, so do whatever you need to do, Coach. But Arkansas run game, did they do anything that maybe you didn't expect? And with that in mind, Nussmeier isn't very mobile. So what's the challenge then in stopping the LSU run game?
I'm going to try to use the right filter when I answer this question because we just discussed this with the defense this morning. I never want to be the coach who doesn't give credit to the other team. So obviously Arkansas had a plan. They went out, they executed their plan. They had a ton of success, and so credit to them. We can't play defense like we played on Saturday against anybody and be successful. Anybody. And so if we don't fix our own issues, we won't stop anybody. And so that was the message that was delivered very clearly to our defense this morning. The challenge is on us as a staff to do a better job of getting that through to them before Saturday. Clearly I didn't, and we didn't do a good enough job with that last week. And so I don't know that the challenge of Arkansas is what ultimately led to our issues. I think Texas A&M led to Texas A&M's defensive issues on Saturday. And again, that's not to be disrespectful to Arkansas. They have great players, but that's what I think. And so we've got to get a lot better.
All right. Thank you, Coach.
Yep. Thank you, guys.